But the story that's breaking this evening, two groups have clashed in Haryana's Nuh on Monday after stones were pelted at a religious procession being carried out with the Bajrang Dal also in the eye of the storm. Stones were thrown, vehicles were set on fire as clashes broke out between Hindu and Muslim groups in Haryana's Mewat region. Internet services have been shut in the area amidst an intense communal situation. Reinforcements are being rushed to Nuh from neighboring districts, Nuh not far away from the national capital. Visuals on your screen showing several cars being burnt in the violence as tensions gripped in the region. Prohibitory orders banning assembly of people were imposed in Nuh. According to reports, a group of people threw stones at a rally being carried out by the VHP and Bajrang Dal workers. The violence broke out over reports of cow vigilante and Bhiwani deaths case accused Monu Manesar visiting Mewat. So those are the worrying, troubling scenes coming in from Nuh.
नहीं, पूरी जानकारी मिली है और वहाँ पर अतिरिक्त फोर्स भेजने के लिए कहा गया है। आजू बाजू के सभी जिलों की फोर्स वहाँ पर पहुँच रही है और हमने केंद्र से भी बात की है। वहाँ से भी एयर ड्रॉप 3 कंपनियाँ हम करने जा रहे हैं लोगों को रेस्क्यू करने के लिए। और वहाँ के हमने मेवात के इंटरनेट बंद करने के भी आदेश जारी कर दिए हैं ताकि लोग अफवाहें ना फैलाएं। और हम शीघ्र वहाँ पर शांति बहाल करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं और मैं सारों से कहना भी चाहता हूँ कि सबसे पहले वो सारे शांति बहाल करें, ये मैं अपील भी करना चाहता हूँ।
And joining me now is our correspondent on the spot, Anmol Bali, who was caught right in the center of all that was happening. Anmol, has some element of calm returned in the area or is it still very tense?
Still, Rajdeep sir, the area is under the tension. As I was there since the morning, I have seen everything from the tense stone pelting to the police deployment. The internet has been suspended by the government and the police force has rushed to the Mewat, to the Nuh, and every corner of the city is now installed with some police officers to make the situation which was tense earlier to calm down the situation. But still, the situation is not that okay or not that normal which it was in the morning.
Bajrang Dal VHP workers as well as Muslim group workers being accused. Has the police arrested those involved who have been involved in all the violence that has taken place?
Yeah, while I was there in the evening, I have seen police has started arresting the people. They have started identifying the stone pelters. Police was trying to enter in the homes of the people, those who were seen pelting the stone. And yes, in the visuals also we have seen that police was arresting them. Police has started identifying them. The police is doing investigation. But it was also seen that law and order was at a failure while the stones were pelted. Police deployment was in so small number that they were not able to handle the situation. That's why the situation handled to this that they have imposed 144 in Nuh and Mewat, sir.
One more question. Monu Manesar, who is a prime accused in a cow lynching case as well as in Bhiwani violence, where is he? Because many are saying he was the reason why this protest broke out. He is someone who should be arrested and behind bars. Where is he?
Rajdeep sir, this was the 3rd year of this religious procession, but this was the first time that this procession witnessed this violence from both the communities, from both the sides. This all started 2 days ago when Monu Manesar came on the social media. He posted a video where he said that he'll become part of the procession. He asked other Bajrang Dal workers to come to the procession. He said that I'll be part of that procession. He is currently one of the wanted in the Bharatpur Muslim killing, and after people got to know that he is part of the procession, this violence took place in Manesar.
You know, Anmol, you are there. I saw images of you in the morning right in the center of it. Stay safe and you don't have to call me sir. So stay safe and have a good night. Okay, let's turn from what's been happening in Manesar to what is happening in Manipur. Parliament may not debate it, but here on India, on our news today, we will continue to focus on what's been happening in Manipur. Today, the battle in a way shifted to the Supreme Court. The two women who were paraded naked in Manipur moved the court, seeking a fair and impartial probe, calling for security. The top court wrapped the centre and state government in strong observations, stating the Manipur crimes and violence against women in other states cannot be compared. The centre has also been asked to give details of the FIRs and the probe that is underway. It's our top story tonight.
The horror that sent chills down every Indian spine. They were paraded naked, assaulted by a mob of men in broad daylight in Manipur on May 4th. One of them was gang raped. No action was taken against the accused for a month after complaint, till video of the gruesome crime surfaced. The survivors have knocked on the Supreme Court's doors seeking fair and impartial probe. The demand came days after Centre handed over the case to the CBI. A Supreme Court bench of Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, Justice J.B. Pardiwala and Justice Manoj Mishra, while hearing the case, pulled up the centre and the state government. The court asked why the police took 14 days to file an FIR. The CJI observed that time is running out and that evidence may be destroyed. Further, the court has asked the government for a bifurcation of the 6,000 FIRs into cases of violence against women and other crimes. The court also sought to know how many statements of victims have been recorded by the magistrate and details of legal aid being provided to victims.
Additionally, the court also asking the centre a very pointed question that while the violence is ongoing, the horror stories are coming out. What is the centre doing to ensure relief and rehabilitation? Is there any rehabilitation package that is being offered to the state of Manipur and to the victims of this horrific violence, no matter which community they may belong to get back to their normal lives, to rebuild their homes and to rebuild their lives?
Earlier, Kapil Sibal, who represented the survivors in the top court, opposed the handover of investigation to the CBI and transfer of trial to Assam. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta clarified that the government had only asked for shifting the trial outside Manipur and not asked for Assam specifically. Sibal argued that the facts indicate the police collaborated with the criminals. The lawyer said the investigation must be conducted by an agency the survivors have trust in. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta intervened to say that Centre is not opposed to a court-monitored investigation. Senior advocate Indira Jaisingh suggested a high-powered committee with women who have experience in dealing with survivors to lead the probe. Senior advocate Colin Gonsalves suggested that the investigation be done by an SIT comprising retired DGPs. Advocate Bansuri Swaraj, representing an intervener, argued that the court should take cognizance of crime against women in West Bengal. The court said what is taking place in Manipur can't be excused on the ground that similar crimes are happening in other parts too. The Supreme Court also referred to the Nirbhaya case. It said this is not a situation like Nirbhaya. That was also horrific, but it was isolated. This is not an isolated instance. Here we are dealing with systematic violence. The Supreme Court will resume the hearing on Tuesday. With Anisha Mathur in New Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Okay, time now for a legal face-off. Joining us now in a moment will be two top lawyers, but the big questions to them. Will the Supreme Court be able to ensure justice? Will courts succeed where the executive has clearly failed? SIT under Supreme Court supervision, the only way out now? Joining us now on our legal face-off, Dushyant Dave, senior advocate, and C. Aryama Sundaram, another senior advocate of the Supreme Court. Appreciate both of you joining us. To you, Mr. Dave, first. Do you believe that the court can provide justice where the executive has failed? It's now 3 months since this horrific gang rape took place almost. Do you believe that it is too little, too late now for the court to intervene? Can they ensure that we actually get justice for the victims with a court-monitored probe? Is that the only way out?
As you rightly said, it is too late, too little. Court itself has been in session of this case for almost now 1.5 months, and the court has done precious little. The court accepted, the statements of the Solicitor General on behalf of Government of India and Government of Manipur on face value and declined to really actively, intervene. Rajdeep, one must realize one thing, that this is a case where there is a very, very serious issue of complete breakdown of law and order. The constitutional mechanism in the state has failed. the center has been just looking the other way about it. The Home Minister, who's supposedly so powerful, spent 4 days in Manipur and didn't know about this case about these women. I mean, it is inconceivable that he was not aware of it. So the government of India apparently actively hid the facts from the nation for whatever reasons. And the facts, unfortunately for them, truth always has an uncanny way of surfacing. It surfaced. Now, when it surfaced, the Supreme Court certainly galvanizes itself and seeks to take suo motu cognizance. But I feel that this is a grossest violations of human rights against the minority community, because there is no doubt that besides the fact that large number of people have died, many cases of rapes have taken place. Over 600 churches, I believe, have been burned down. Schools have been burned down belonging to the Kooky community. So I think, it was something where court should have stepped in and provided a healing touch much earlier by appointing independent, strong observers like retired, respected Chief Justice like Chief Justice Lodha or Justice Thakur or somebody, and a whole, group of experts, police and bureaucratic experts, to really go there, find out what the truth was.
Right.
Because one thing is very clear, that the government did not want truth to come out of Manipur.
Okay,
And that is, I think, the government has done great disservice to the nation, but the Supreme Court, I don't think, has lived up to the expectations out of them.
Okay, so you're saying too little too late. Just a factual check. As per official records, about 230 churches and over about 20 temples have at various levels, small and big, been attacked when the violence took place in Manipur. But Aryama Sundaram, the question before the court is how far can the court go in taking over the role of executive? Law and order is for the state to handle. It's for the police and perhaps now for the CBI. But many of the lawyers arguing in court said we have no faith in the CBI. They want a court-monitored SIT probe with retired DGPs. Do you believe that this lack of faith in the executive is telling in the times we live, or is the court perhaps by conducting a probe essentially going to send a message that they have no faith in the executive?
Rajdeep, let's understand this is a very delicate situation. And I'm saying delicate because while I agree with my good friend Dushyant that this is absolutely heinous, what has happened is very extreme, I also have to temper myself with reminding myself that after all, we are a democracy as a country, and the basis of a democracy is what we call the separation of powers, where one wing of the state does not interfere with another wing of the state in the normal course of things. This is definitely a matter for the executive to take care of. It's definitely a law and order situation. Even worse, it's getting to a public order situation. This is something the executive has obviously failed to handle in the way they should have. And the separation of powers dictates a certain cautious approach by the courts before stepping into what is the executive's sphere of responsibility.
No, but when the executive fails,
now when does
what
the court
happens
come
when
in?
Should the court step in when the executive fails?
Exactly. I'm answering you. Yes, that's the point I'm making. Under the Indian Constitution, unlike constitutions of many other countries, the Indian Supreme Court has enormous powers to step into issues such as this when circumstances warrant it. And definitely the court has found the circumstances warrant it. Dushyant says too little too late. But my point is that a cautious approach of when to step in by the court is definitely required in a democracy and where there's separation of powers. That the court has to step in when the executive absolutely fails in its functions, affecting human rights of citizens. The court has to step in.
Sir, but 140, with due regard, 140 people have, sir, when 140 people have died, more than 1,000,
feel it's too
sure,
soon.
But when 140 people have died, thousands have been displaced, there is an element of ethnic divide of a kind that is rarely seen. Kooky is in one part, Meitei is in one part. I mean, all of that is deeply troubling. So are you saying that the court should not have a court-monitored probe of these incidents?
That's why I think a time has come when the court will seriously have to consider having a court monitored probe. But this is an issue which is partly political, greatly social, hugely legal. It involves all. Now, the executive fails, the court steps in when human rights are involved. This is not a policy matter where courts don't step in. Human rights get involved, court does step in. Unless the executive can satisfy the court that it is going to earnestly and will capably deal with the situation, I believe the court will have to step in, like they had to step in very often in the past, and put up sits and special investigation teams to deal with the matter.
But
if you ask me, has the time now come for the court to come into it? Yes, the time has now come. And like I said, there's never a right time.
Okay.
Some will say it's too early, some will say it's too late. It's always a situation when you have a separation of powers.
Okay.
But at this juncture, so let's talk of the present and the future, immediate future. What's to be done? I think the court has taken session of it. And I'm slightly more optimistic than Dushyant when I say that I do believe that something is going to turn around now.
Can I ask you, Mr. Dave, there will be those, and this was argued by one of the lawyers in court, saying court must look at also what's happening in West Bengal. Courts must also look at instances of rape that take place in other states. Now, you could even turn the clock back to other instances of mass violence. Forget what's happened in Manipur. Look at what happened over the years. How far can the court go? This whataboutery. The Chief Justice made it very clear, you cannot compare one instance with the other. But do you believe that because this is politically so fraught, therefore the court willy-nilly will get caught in a political argument now? The BJP will say, why don't you go into Bengal?
Well, let me say one thing very clearly. Nobody can condone violence of any kind in any state. And I have no doubt that the law and order machinery is taking care of the situation in the states that they are complaining about. But it's now become a fashion on the part of the Bharatiya Janata Party that as and when it fails to really help the people who need their help and allows this violence to perpetrate, and there is no doubt in my mind that the violence in Manipur has taken place not just because the government failed, but because the government of Manipur wanted to fail. Let's be very clear about it. I mean, here is a prime minister who has not said a word about Manipur violence while he sheds tears for his cheetahs and tigers, from time to time. It's really sad to see the prime minister keeping this kind of a silence on an issue which is really very, very serious, because here is a group of minorities, the Christians, who are being targeted.
No, Meiteis have also, let me correct you, sir. Meiteis have also suffered. Both communities have suffered. My point is, when you make a statement like that.
Don't interrupt, Rajdeep.
Okay.
I am also aware that Meiteis have suffered. But there is no doubt that the Christians have suffered much more. And it is now a pattern in this country that the minorities are suffering much more. Yes, in the process, some majority community people will suffer. But minorities are being targeted across the states. And therefore, it is the duty of the Supreme Court. My good friend Mr. Aryama Sundaram in one hand says that police failed, executive failed, but Supreme Court should not step in. Then again he says time has come, Supreme Court should step in. I feel Supreme Court should have stepped in the day it was moved, because government of Manipur and central government were looking the other way.
But is it a political minefield? Dushyant Dave, if the court steps in, are they stepping into a political minefield?
No, not at all. Court is a custodian of the fundamental rights. Right to life is most important of the valued and cherished human rights under the Constitution. And if that right is being violated in such a systematic manner, we have seen, Rajdeep, this happening in 1984 in Delhi and other places. We have seen it happen in Gujarat in 2002. We are seeing this again in Manipur. I mean, it is every time court has failed. In 84, it didn't step in. In 2002, it stepped in too late. And now again in Manipur, it is stepping in with, very cautious approach. I don't understand why caution. People have died. People are being raped. Their properties are destroyed. Communities are divided. Court should have put the healing touch much earlier by bringing in best people to really stop the violence. You have to take action against the police. Suspend them, all the officers. Suspend the bureaucrats who are responsible. And pass strictures against the state government.
So you don't see that as court taking over executive powers. If
Not
court
at
starts
all.
suspending police officers, is that taking over executive powers?
Not at all. I will give you a classic example. When Allahabad High Court was attacked by the, some policemen way back, and police was not able to protect the judges and lawyers, Chief Justice Venkat Chalaya issued directions that army should enter Allahabad High Court and protect, and CRPF should enter, and others, and they entered within a matter of 2 hours. So when it comes to them, the judges are very, very clear that yes, we must use powers to stop violence. When it comes to innocent citizens, the judges are extremely slow and thinking for months together as to what is to be done. I must say that I am deeply disappointed in Chief Justice Chandrachud and his colleagues. I think they have failed miserably. They failed the nation.
So you don't go by the strong observation that Justice Chandrachud has made both a couple of weeks ago and today. You say that's not enough. You say observations are not enough. You need action on the ground. The truth, of course, is that it required some of those observations for the government now to say they will pull the cases out of Manipur. They are ready to take even the gang rape case out of Manipur. Do you believe that in a way also Aryama Sundaram is possibly a solution? These cases cannot be prosecuted in Manipur. Some are suggesting they've got to be taken out to ensure fairness. What does that say about our system?
No, I don't think it's a simple case of fairness. Their point is these cases are incendiary. They are really flaring up. When the case goes on, there are going to be more and more emotions coming up. It's already a sensitive situation. Taking the case out is not casting any kind of aspersion on the justice delivery system in Manipur. It is to see to it that that this whole thing in the case going on doesn't flare up tensions which are already there. It is a wise thing to do, certainly a wise thing to do in the given circumstances from that angle.
But do you think it's too late? But do you think that we will actually be able to prosecute effectively? We've seen in the past in cases involving mass violence, the courts have often not been able to prosecute. I'll give you an example of Mumbai 92, where over 1,000 people died. Barely a dozen, 2 dozen people eventually were convicted. Is it too late? Should there be another? Is there another way?
Despite Justice Sri Krishna's report.
Justice Sri Krishna's report was thrown into the Arabian Sea sadly when the government changed. Yes, Mr. Sudram.
The fact is, Rajdeep, when on the one hand you're saying is it too late? I'm sorry, but I have to re-emphasize one aspect. Whether we like it or not, when you live in a democracy which goes strongly by separation of powers, there is a tendency that one could interfere into the realm of the others. If the legislature or the executive was to step into the judiciary's shoes, I know that people would be screaming and saying, how can the legislative or the executive step into the judiciary's shoes? The judiciary has to, whether you like it or not, by the system of separation of powers, allow the state to do its function. This judiciary should come in only when there's no other option. Now,
maybe
Mr.
that stage has been reached in Manipur.
Dave feels the judiciary should come in earlier. The fact is the judiciary cannot be a Don Quixote and in every matter come in as and when. Then you have an equal risk of it becoming a judicial dictatorship, which it cannot be. So the point is, it is a very difficult thing to time. I may agree with you that here the judiciary has stepped in a bit too late. Not too late to do anything, but bit later than what they should have.
Okay.
But it's always a very, very difficult decision to take as to when to step in.
Okay,
and when to step into an area which it is really the executive function to do. What the judiciary tries to do then is to nudge, to push, to shove the executive to do its functions and do it fairly. And that is what you mean by court monitored.
Okay. One final word from you, Mr. Dave. Judicial dictatorship is one view that critics will have, but there will be others who will say that, look, when the executive is failing, when parliament cannot debate Manipur, when the prime minister remains silent on it, when the chief minister is accused of partisanship, the only way out is the court. Should we have more faith in the court than perhaps you have at the moment?
Look, I'll tell you a classic example. The 1992 judgment in, second judge's case. The Supreme Court, grabbed the power from the government to appoint judges in High Courts and Supreme Court, rewriting the Constitution. So it's not that Supreme Court doesn't take away the powers from the executive from time to time. They did it for good reason. Whether it has been successful or failure, that's a separate issue.
Right.
I feel under separation of power theory, if any one of the organs of the state fails to perform the constitutional duties imposed upon it, because who protects the right to life? It's the executive. If the executive has failed to protect the lives of the citizens, then certainly some via media has to be found. Some solution has to be found.
So, a Supreme Court monitored probe, Supreme Court monitored
Absolutely.
probe in a fixed
Fiercely
time, with a
independent.
fixed time frame, with officers who are seen as credible is the way forward. Am I correct?
And headed by a retired Chief Justice like Chief Justice Lodha
Okay.
or Justice Thakur, who are impeccable.
Okay.
Something like that. Otherwise, it's all mockery. What's happening? I mean, people are dying. What are you going to do? How will you give them 5 lakhs and 10 lakhs and forget about them? I mean, do you realize people who have lost their near and dear ones? What must be happening through their mind? Do you realize what will happen to the children of these women who have been publicly paraded and raped? And you are now confining the case to 5 people. The whole crowd was there. You should prosecute the entire crowd. I mean, what is happening to this country? Civility is dead. Humanity is dead. That people see this and don't even intervene to stop. I mean, we must learn something. We must bring humanity back into us, civility back into us. We must become a cultural nation.
So
we have become completely uncultured.
Okay, let me leave it there. Those are very strong words. Hopefully someone is listening. Remember, the court will continue with its hearings tomorrow and hopefully be passing an order on this case. Manipur remains our top focus. Aryama Sundaram, Dushyant Dave, always great to have two articulate lawyers joining us on our face-off here. Let's turn from there to an exclusive that we have with an MLA who's really now, in a way, put the chicken in the situation in Manipur, the cat among the pigeons rather, as the centre begins the process for talks with Meitei and Kooky Zo communities. Kooky BJP MLA Paulonel Haukip has now called for the bifurcation of the state, while the Chief Minister N. Biren Singh has categorically rejected any such proposal. The BJP MLA now has gone on record saying it's the only way forward in order to restore peace and tranquility in the state. Let's go straight across to Mr. Haukip. The BJP MLA, a Kooky himself, joins me. Mr. Haukip, you have now questioned the way the centre and state have handled the Manipur violence. Are you saying that you don't see the Meitei and Kooky people being able to come together and live together with a healing touch? Are you saying that that is simply not possible anymore?
Well, Rajdeep, thank you for having me. And as I always say, the healing touch would be to recognize the separation and to let allow the two communities live with mutual dignity and mutual respect. Forcing, people together in a bad marriage would not be the right approach at this point.
Now, are you saying, when you say separate state, are you calling for a separate administration for a Kooky community within Manipur? Will this not essentially, are you calling for the breakup of Manipur?
Rajdeep, you cannot want the territory and not want the people, So, if you don't want the people, you have no right to claim that the territorial integrity of the state should be preserved. It is only when you show love and justice and the right attitude as leader of the government that you have the moral authority to say such things. Mr. Biren has lost that moral authority.
You are saying Biren Singh has lost the moral authority and that the Chief Minister, are you calling for the Chief Minister to step down? Are you saying he is part of the problem, not the solution, when you say Biren Singh has lost the moral authority?
Whether he steps down or not is not a concern anymore. If he wants to remain as the Chief Minister, let him be the Chief Minister of that part of the state where he still enjoys support. But for the Kooky Zo community, we are aspiring and we are seeking of the central government to recognize the segregation, the separation in the form of a political administrative arrangement, which will not involve Mr. Biren Singh or the government of Manipur no more.
Have you tried, though, Mr. Haukip, to raise this demand that you have for separate statehood? Have you met the Prime Minister and the Home Minister? Because you are a BJP MLA. The Prime Minister has been silent. The Home Minister was in Manipur for 3 days in May. Have you raised it with them as a BJP MLA that Kooky BJP MLAs now want a separate state?
Well, it is understandable because this is a big decision and the center would need some time. And I'm hopeful that the central government, the Union Home Minister, as well as the Honorable Prime Minister, would recognize the gravity of the situation, the human divide that has been affected under the Biren Singh's leadership, and as citizens of India, would take care of the interest and the aspirations of the Kooky community also.
But sir, you are, as a sitting MLA of Manipur, of the ruling party, calling for the breakup of your own state. I mean, isn't that a big statement to make? Are you saying today to me that Kooky and Meitei communities can't stay together? Both of them have suffered, sir.
No, Rajdeep, we have seen the creation of Telangana, we have seen the creation of Uttarakhand, Chhattisgarh. There are less problems there than the one here in Manipur. And if under less demanding or less deserving circumstances, we can accommodate political aspirations of citizens, I think it is only right that the government of India should seriously consider, because it is an existential crisis for the Kooky community. We are targeted for annihilation. And you have seen on national television the open threat by the Meitei Lipun chief. It is that kind of arrogance, that kind of attitude that we choose not to live with anymore.
But sir, but there are also Meiteis who have helped Kookies in this time of need. As I said, both communities have been affected. I mean, surely there must be a way to start a dialogue between the two communities, between responsible citizens in civil society and the political leadership. Are you saying that's simply not possible anymore?
In a civil strife situation, there are bound to be casualties and sufferings on both sides. That is understandable. But the kind of narrative maligning the entire Kooky community based on trumped-up narratives of illegal immigration, of drug trafficking, of forest encroachment, this kind of negative narrative is rooted in a certain kind of hatred. Now, if in your state the majority community doesn't count you as people of the state, which you are, then the only alternative, I think, is for the union government to intervene and recognize our aspiration for a separate administration under the Constitution of India, so that we can live happily as citizens of India like any other citizen elsewhere.
But let's be clear, sir. Many of these targeting of Kookies, the allegation that you're saying, the demonization of Kookies has been done at times by the Chief Minister himself. He has said this is a war against narco-terrorists. This is a war against infiltrators, Kooky chins who are coming from Myanmar. So let's be clear who's making these allegations. The fact is, it's the Chief Minister of your own party. You're a BJP MLA who is saying that the Kookies themselves started this all.
He's been at the head of this hate campaign for quite some time, and his linkages with the radical militia societies or organizations like the Meitei Lipun and the Arambai Tengal is well known to the country by now. And so, but what I like to put here on record is, Rajdeep, a lot of politics is tried to be played by the opposition in parliament. Let's for once go beyond politics and see the the existential threat that the Kookies people are facing today in Manipur. And what is so wrong in protecting a section of the citizens who are being threatened, who are being looked down upon, who are being, so hated that a lot of depravities have been committed on them. What is so wrong in giving them a separate administration under which they can happily live as Indian citizens and pursue their dreams of excellence?
You know, Mr. Haukib, you just said something significant. You say that you're saying the Chief Minister is complicit because you're saying that he has aligned himself with radical Meitei groups. You're going on record to say that as a BJP MLA. On the flip side, the Chief Minister's supporters are saying Kooky militant groups are also responsible for the violence. Are you going to say that Kooky militant groups were not involved at all? Houses of Meiteis were burnt in Churachandpur. The argument that is being made is that that's where the violence started.
The Kooky militant groups are in no way involved as far as the Solidarity March was concerned or anything prior to that. They have no involvement whatsoever. It was the All Tribal Students Union Manipur that had called for the Solidarity March against the High Court judgment. So it has nothing to do with militants. The current narrative of this trouble being a war against narco terrorists, as Mr. Biren calls it, is a narrative to justify the complicity of the state in the violence, nothing else.
You know, you're using again the word complicity of the state in the violence. I repeat, this is a state of which you are part of as a BJP MLA. Do you therefore believe, I come back to that, the removal of Mr. Biren Singh, whom in one way you're holding responsible, will solve the problem? As a BJP leader, are you calling for the removal of your own BJP Chief Minister?
Rajdeep, sometimes you have to go beyond the party line to look at the problem, because a party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, which I have joined for its decisiveness, for its bold steps for the nation, cannot be appropriated by just Biren Singh and a few others. The party is not all about Biren Singh. I am as much a party member, but truth needs to be spoken within the party also. In fact, I had written to the state president before the troubles broke out, expressing my concerns about the way things are handled, the way things are being run by the chief minister. So within the party also, we have every right to air our differences of opinion. That is the spirit of democracy. Just because the chief minister does something, it doesn't mean that I, as a party MLA, would suit or blindly follow it. I don't believe in that kind.
But as I said, Mr. Haukib, you are talking today of a separate state within Manipur, or a separate state being a solution for Kookies. But, you know, will the Nagas agree to it? They want a greater Nagaland. You've had Naga-Kooky clashes in the past. Will the Meiteis, who have already made it very clear they will not accept the division of Manipur? Are you simply trying to put pressure on the center? And what happens if the demand that you are calling is not considered? Does the violence simply continue?
Exactly. The demand have been put across by the negotiating team, that is the SO groups that had been engaged with the central government in talks prior to the violence also, and now under a new framework, which is no longer trilateral but bilateral now. They have already put up the demands for separation from Manipur, and we look forward to the central government favorably looking into it and bringing permanent peace in the region, so that the region can also experience the benefits of Indian independence.
But with due regards, sir, tomorrow the Nagas will also then call for a separate state of Greater Nagaland. Groups in Assam will call for Bodoland. Other communities in Tripura, other northeastern states will ask for a separate state. It will open up a Pandora's box.
Even the Nagas have been wanting to separate from Manipur, because Rajdeep, if you look back at the political history of Manipur, since even before statehood, the constitutional provisions protecting the rights of tribal have been systematically neglected.
Yes, but let me just ask you one last time. If the centre doesn't agree to this, if this demand for a separate Kooky state is not considered, are you going to resign from the BJP? Is that an ultimatum in a way that you're offering?
Well, in politics, nothing is off the table, Rajdeep, and we'll cross that bridge when we reach there, because I cannot speak based on speculation. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of hope, and I'll stick to that hope for now.
Okay, so you have hope that the centre will agree to your demand for a separate state. The Manipur Chief Minister has made it clear that's not on the table. A BJP MLA is now coming out and calling for a separate Kooky state. Remember, he's one of 10 Kooky MLAs who seem to be echoing that demand. Mr. Haukip, for coming and speaking so plainly, calling it a complicity of the state, I appreciate your joining us. You've set the cat among the pigeons. Let's take a break. When we return, we're turning to the story of what's been happening in a railway compartment that has gone horribly wrong, and courage and resilience of young children who fled from Manipur. We'll tell you that story on the other side. You're watching the news today. News without the noise. Welcome back. Let's turn for the other shocker that's coming in today. A Railway Protection Force Jawan killed 4 people on a train from Jaipur to Mumbai. The victims included 3 passengers and an RPF assistant sub-inspector. The incident took place on the Jaipur Express. Some politicians are imputing a communal angle. Take a look.
They were a team on duty barely 24 hours ago. But in a horrific turn of events, one is dead and his subordinate the killer. At 5:30 a.m. in B5 coach of Jaipur MMCT Express 12956, RPF constable Chetan allegedly opened fire at his escort in charge, Tikaram, an assistant sub-inspector in Railway Protection Force. Chetan also shot dead 3 other civilians travelling in the Jaipur Express. 2 have been identified as Asghar Ali from Jaipur and Kader Bhanpurala from Nalasopara in Mumbai. The 4th victim is yet to be identified. Prelim probe states that the accused, Chetan, complained of mental harassment and was upset with ASI Tikaram.
Total 4 are dead. उसको मीरा रोड स्टेशन पे उसको डिटेन कर लिया गया।
सर इसने ऐसा क्यों किया? जी जी
ऑटोमेटिक वेपन है, उसको वेपन भी रिकवर किया है। फिलहाल कोई खतरे की बात नहीं है, उसको पकड़ा गया।
सर इसने ऐसा क्यों किया? इसके पीछे कुछ वजह?
इसकी मानसिक अवस्था ठीक नहीं थी, प्रिलिमिनरी यही इंफॉर्मेशन मिली है।
ओके
मेंटली डिस्टर्ब था, इस टाइप का इंफॉर्मेशन प्रिलिमिनरी उपलब्ध हुआ है।
Misfired bullet marks were seen on the door of the coach, where the horror unfolded. According to sources, RPF constable Chetan started to fire on his senior Tikaram as the train passed from Palgad railway station. 3 other passengers were also hit. He used a modified version of AK-47 AKM assault rifle for the crime and fired at least 12 rounds. Chetan then tried to pull the chain to escape near Dahisar station. Train stopped at Mira Road station where he was immediately taken into custody by Mumbai police. By the time the train reached Borivali, 4 dead bodies were retrieved by GRP and RPF. Postmortem will be done to ascertain further details of the incident.
ये अभी इसके सब अनकन्फर्म रिपोर्ट्स हैं। अभी इसके बारे में एग्जैक्टली जानकारी प्राप्त करके ही कंफर्म किया जाएगा। मानसिक वाली ऐसी कोई बात अभी नहीं।
A journey to safeguard passengers ended in a terrible tragedy of quadruple murders, leaving many questions unanswered. With Deepesh Tripathi and Divyesh Singh in Mumbai, Bureau Report, India Today.
Tragic story there. Well, as I said, we've been tracking passionately the story in Manipur for several weeks now. We've heard stories of despair, of people who've lost their loved ones. Tonight, I want to leave you with a story of courage and resilience, of the young children who fled from Manipur amidst the violence and are now finding some hope and support in Delhi schools. I can only hope that one day they grow up to be bright young Indian citizens and can provide the healing touch. Metes, Kookies, we want them all to be Indians first. I leave you tonight with this story from Shreya, a heartwarming tale of strength and perseverance. Jai Hind, Namaskar.
From killing, gunfights, and arson in Manipur to the classroom in Delhi. These children have traversed a long distance in a very short period.
How did you guys make your journey?
It's like first we came at Gam village in Imphal. Yeah, and then it's from there we were evacuated in the CRPF camp near Langol, and then from there we stayed like 1 week and 1 day, and then from there we came in Delhi.
The government's initiative to admit students from Manipur in Delhi schools is a step in giving them a fresh start. But it is not an easy task for them. Even as these children attend classes here, they are worried about the safety of their loved ones in Manipur.
The entire journey.
It
was difficult, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was hard because I left my mom. I separated with my mom just to continue my study. It's been more than 5 months that I have 5 months that I haven't seen my mom and dad.
You will get better.
I just want to say that to bring peace and justice for us.
All this time we have to stay alert. If we didn't stay alert, our life will be gone. It's really hard there. My father used to go in the border area to guard our land, and my mother just staying at home.
Teachers at this government school in RK Puram have started a buddy program so that students from Manipur can easily mingle with others here.
Ma'am, her name is Hatmini and her is Kim Lan Chong, and his name is Christopher, and his name is Cam Koshe.
Okay, so you guys enjoying with everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
अच्छे से दोस्ती बन रही?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
क्या-क्या सिखाया?
कुछ वर्ड सिखाए हैं,
अभी कुछ बता।
जैसे थोड़ा थोड़ा।
कुछ और बताने की कोशिश।
क्या करते हो?
कुछ नहीं करता।
सीख गए।
Kaki pae.
काकी
Pae.
काकी
Kaki pae.
That is, I am happy in Manipuri. Once again, loud.
Kaki pae. Kooky Pai.
We have a wonderful set of teachers here who are guiding my students, and the new students who have come in are I hope, adjusting quite well with my original students, the ones who are already studying in the school. And in the 11th class, we have this buddy system where we have paired children with a new child, with an old student, so that they can sit together, eat together, study together, and play games together.
And the students are not giving up hope. If anything, the tragedy that struck Manipur has only made their resolve tough.
I want to be an army.
You want to be in the army?
Yeah.
Why do you want to be in the army?
It's like because so every one of us are going to die one day. Like that's obviously going to happen. But I chose it because at least I can die like for our country or maybe help someone else.
You want to die for your country?
Yeah.
With this message of diversity, where people from Manipur, where students from Manipur are finding solace in a school in the national capital of the country, we only hope that such programs, such messages be extended for the people of Manipur who are going through an extremely disturbing time. And as one of the students said, that they are finally happy that they were able to come from the state of Manipur, even if their parents are still there, they're happy that they are now meeting new friends and finding peace in the national capital. With video journalist Deepak Bisht, this is Shreya Chatterjee for India Today.